Hey, Dan, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can. Yes, sir. All right. Well, we've got just a couple minutes here. I think people are slowly joining in on us. Are you guys all ready?
You're the second guy to ask me that today. I think so.
Hey, I know what it's like to put these shows together. So I know all the backside work that has to be done too. And I don't think people realize how much work goes into these shows.
Most people have no clue, right?
Yeah, none.
I feel good, and I say that hoping not to have a piano fall on me. We'll start setting up pipe and drape tomorrow, and it'll be Monday before we know it.
Yeah, right. That's usually how it goes. The nice thing is I finally got a chance to get out on the ice today, and we whacked a bunch of bluegills and some perch. And
I saw that. That hurt me, by the way.
I feel weight.
Those of us that barely got out behind a steering wheel or a desk today saw that, and I just cried a little bit.
Hey, that's what we do best. We're just here to support you guys back home.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I'm gonna shut down some music here. And all right.
I don't know if you saw my late note, but I don't know that we totally were on the same page. I'm more than fine to give away 2 winners a pair of tickets.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
So the only trick is we'll grab a
info and
grab a name and an email, phone number, and that way we can send them stuff tomorrow.
Sure, awesome. Friday is 1 to 7. Saturday
9 to 7.
9 to 7. And Sunday
9 to 4.
9 to 4.
And you're right away first day, aren't you?
I believe so. Yes.
I think you're Mr. in the shoot first.
Nice. And if we need to do a second one throughout the weekend or whatever, or fill-ins, those question and answer deals work very well versus just doing like a formalized seminar. Yeah. Just get people in and do a Q&A, and those, I found that those have been going way better than just doing a planned seminar, because that way there you can interact with the customers and the people in the audience, and it turns into more what they want to learn versus what you want to teach.
Well, and I think everybody wants to know a guide, right? Everybody wants to pick the guide's brain, and so I could definitely understand that.
All right. Well, let's get rid of this guy here. And
I stalked you quick on Facebook today, and you and your daughter had a really awesome picture in the snowy pines.
Oh, yeah.
In a ladder stand. That was a really cool
No,
shot.
that was my son. That was my 7-year-old. So
okay.
Funny story about that is Xander, he's like Mr. Gun-Ho about hunting. He's going to be the hunting and fishing dude like me. And we got to the stand that morning. It was the last, it would have been the last Sunday. Or was it Saturday? One of the mornings. And it was pretty cold that morning, and he was pretty tired. So we left home at like 4:00. So he was up at 3:30, and we drive out there, and he's like, "Dad, can I just, sleep for a little bit longer, and then I'll find the stand, or I'll come out afterwards." I'm like, "Yeah, bud, you can do that. There's snow on the ground. Just follow my tracks." And he's like, "Well, once I get to the scrape, I know where to go from there." I'm like, "That's awesome," because we got a scrape right on the corner of one of our logging trails. And it just goes that he's remembering things, he's learning things.
Yeah.
And I was pretty proud of him. It was about 10 after 8 or so. I heard this chomp 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 chomp, and here he comes, little pitter patter footprints coming through the woods, and he walked all the way over and climbed up the ladder stand, and it was awesome.
Those are just the best memories, man.
It is. All right. Well, we're getting a good bunch of people here, so I think we'll get started just a minute after 8. That's fine. We've got Don Kirby, and he is with the Wisconsin Ice Fishing Expo that is happening this weekend in Oshkosh at the Sunnyview Expo Center. I've got the times and the dates on the page here. Friday 1 to 7, Saturday 9 to 7, and Sunday 9 to 4. Don, go ahead. Tell us a little bit what's happening. How many vendors? What can people expect for the show?
Yeah, we're super excited. Our team has operated the Wisconsin Fishing Expo in Madison since 2015. That show's been around almost 40 years. Prior to the pandemic, the last ice fishing expo in Wisconsin was in 2017 down in the Milwaukee area, different group. And so a lot of our industry contacts were kind of bumping us, kind of nudging us, saying, "Hey, you guys need to bring an ice show back to Wisconsin." Minnesota has 4 or 5 of them. Wisconsin has none. And so over the course of about 2.5 years, we've been working on bringing this show together. We feel really terrific about it. We've got more than 80 vendors, 145 exhibit spaces. We basically sold out 2 buildings and a big space in between them at Sunnyview for folks in the area that are familiar with that venue. And it's going to be a fantastic show. I think we're actually going to catch a little bit of a break with the weather. It's not going to be too cold. It's not going to be too snowy. And, between yourself and a number of other speakers, we have an incredible, I would argue, the best slate of speakers on ice topics of any of the ice fishing expos that have happened from here all the way out to the Dakotas. We've got the greatest lineup of educational speakers. And then just a huge lineup of from the great big companies, like the Clams and the Eskimos of the world. We've got multiple retailers from specialty like Hardwater Outdoors to big Minnesota operations like Thorne Brothers to Wilderness Fish and Game here in Wisconsin. We got Rip and Lips, 2 stores around the lake. We got Critters. So we just got a really great bunch of retailers that'll be here to support all these manufacturers. And then we've got some really neat stuff. There's not really a ton of wheelhouse dealers close by in the Fox Valley anymore. There's 1 or 2. We're bringing in 3 manufacturers: Ambush, Yeti, and North Winds Fish House are all going to be there with big machines to come and check out. We've got amazing type of food. We've got 3 or 4 food truck operators, plus some specialty meats and some specialty, kettle corn, fun stuff like that. We've got U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. We've got DNR. We've got a live action trout pond. So there's kind of a little bit of something for everybody. I won't BS anybody. It's not as big as St. Paul. St. Paul's been around for 30 years. That's the granddaddy that happened last weekend. But we're going to give people a heck of a show right here in the Fox Valley that people are going to find. We're going to hit on 80% maybe of the stuff they could have seen if they drove all the way up to St. Paul, and they're going to be able to do it right here in their backyard.
Absolutely. And the nice thing about having it right here in our backyard too, parking at St. Paul was either $20 or $30. Admission was like $20 or $30. A beer was like $12. If you wanted a hot dog for $15. I mean, the prices when you go to St. Paul is absolutely ridiculous. Makes me really appreciate the small town, Wisconsin type atmosphere. We don't have to take a loan out to go to this show.
Man, I guess not. Now I feel almost cheap. I had heard a few of those anecdotes, but not them all piled together like that. Oh, that's kind of rough. I mean, we're $10, right? $10 to get in for adults. Kids 12 and under are free because we really believe that's super important. We offer a 20% discount to vets, first responders, all that kind of jazz with proper ID. So those folks can get in for $8. Parking is free with us this year at Sunnyview. So I mean, our barrier to entry is very low to come and check out the show. And then you've got some spiffs, right? We're giving away Marmuska jigs to the first 200 people that walk in the door each day with a paid entry, courtesy of HT. You've got Ladies Night. DSG is coming out. Ladies can come over between 4 and 7 and get a free drink, free beverage in the DSG booth and have a chance to win a $1,500 shopping spree with DSG. Plus, then you've got some of these other giveaways. Captain Adam from Pike Pole Guide Service has got some stuff he's giving away in his ice safety seminar. Captain Greg Karch with Learn to Fish to Us has got that session for kids 16 and under. And I forget, I think it's limited to the first 50. I apologize, don't quote me that. It's specific in his seminar, but first 50 kids get an ice combo for that seminar that happens midday on Saturday. So I mean, yeah, we're asking a little bit of an admittance, but you could end up carving a lot of that back just with some of these freebies that you could get a hold of. And then of course we have the Crappie Junction Prize Patrol cruising around. They've got prizes from as small as $5 or $10 bags of jerky to polar tip ups to you could win an auger setup. There's two different shanty drawings that you could get a part of, one from clam, one from Eskimo. So I mean I literally can't even remember everything right off the top of my head. There's so many opportunities to win stuff, and all those opportunities are free.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, but you're going to, like you said, some of the best guys in the ice fishing world are going to be there this weekend to actually sit and talk to. If you want to come up and chat with us, we'll be there working, with the manufacturers that support us, some of our sponsors and that, and, come up, ask us questions. It's your one chance to get a lot of free advice. We're going to be doing seminars. We're going to be there all 3 days from show start till end, and it'll be good just to get a chance to talk to a lot of the local people. When we go over to all these places, the Dakotas and Minnesota and Iowa, we've been doing ice shows and distributor shows since early September. So it's good that we finally have something back home, right in our backyard that we can relate. A lot of people know me, across the Midwest, but not like they do right in our backyard. So I'm really excited just to see all the people that, I get to converse with on a daily basis and talk fishing about, what's happening on the local Winnebago system. As people seen on my Facebook page, I made it out today and we absolutely smashed some giant bluegills and some perch. And I needed that. I had a kink in my neck and, we just needed a little bit of fishing therapy and it's all gone.
I told you before we started, I said, yeah, you hurt me with that post. Those of us that were chained to our desks today, saw you going out and hammering on them. That's a ouchie. But no, you make a great point. Not only yourself, but almost all of our other seminar speakers are going to be in a booth or booths before and after their session. And I think you make a really great point. That's the really super part about having folks like you come to do educational work, is that it's right in your backyard. You could choose to get super specific, and we're talking about stuff that, with a little bit of luck, you're going to be able to apply it in a week, 2 weeks.
Yep.
If we get a little break in the weather, we might be able to, be having wheelers out and stuff like that before the end of the month if we got a little bit lucky. So it should be a really good time for folks to come out and get to interact with guides like you and all of the other educational folks that we're bringing in. Some big names, kind of more regional folks, and a ton of really great local knowledge.
Yep. Tom Boley and Larry Smith and Greg, myself, Pat Calmerton, all super, super knowledgeable fishermen. And what's great about these shows, one thing I really like for a consumer is, we get asked all the time, whether it be on social media or out on the lakes, or if people run into me at the store, they're like, hey, what do you use for this application? Or what kind of rod do you use? Or line. Here's a great thing about these shows: we can talk to you individually, one-on-one. You can listen to our seminars, and then afterwards, if you want us to spend some time with you to go to these retailers that are there and actually help you pick out and explain why, and actually be kind of like your shopping guide, hey, that's what we'll do it. We're there to help you guys out, and that's what these shows are all about.
And there's frankly nowhere else you're going to have that opportunity, right? That's the deal with bringing people together. It's interesting because I saw on social media someone posted, and I don't remember who it was, but they're like, why would I pay someone to go and shop? And it's like, man, you're totally not getting it. Obviously, we need to be able to cover the rent on a big facility like Sunnyview, so we have to charge some admission, and obviously we charge our vendors some admission to be able to be there. But the cost that you're paying to get in is so small compared to the opportunities you have. Let's say you spend 3, 4, 5 hours with us. There's nowhere else that you can go and interact with all of these people and all of these different retailers, be they big brands to these little mom and pops, all in one place. It's kind of, malls aren't really cool anymore like they were when you and I were younger men, but it's kind of like we're bringing together a temporary mall, right?
Yeah.
And not only is it right before ice season, but it's right before Christmas as well. I think it'll be really interesting to see how much of a resource this show becomes for people that want to buy gifts for someone that they're an ice angler themselves, or maybe someone they love is an ice angler. What a perfect opportunity to be able to come and solve that gift giving problem, by coming to an event like this where it's all laid out and it's all in stock.
Yep. And I can tell you this, for anybody that's never been to one of these shows, now St. Paul is kind of an anomaly. The deals you get at that place are insane, but I can guarantee you the deals that are going to be at this show are going to be better than any sale event or anything that happens at these stores. Because what happens is you get a little bit of friendly competition, right? And, it's like, oh, this guy's going to start off at a certain percent. And then, it just kind of keeps going back and forth. And pretty soon the gloves come off. And, these guys they want to try and earn your business. So they're going to give you some good deals, and you're not going to want to miss it. That much I can guarantee at these shows.
Well, and I think to your point, as a recovering retailer myself, a lot of times very special buys are made months in advance for these things, so that they've got large quantities of things that either were on markdown or it was a special makeup, or they've got special spiffs where, normally if you buy something, you just buy the product. Here, you're going to get some additional item to go with it. And then to your point, you've got the whole competitive factor. And in addition, for a lot of these items that are brand new, maybe they're in stock in a store by you, maybe they're not, but they're going to be in stock at the show because they want to be able to show those products off to the people that are coming in.
Yep. Sorry, my kids brought me some treats from Turkey.
Our elves.
So our elves, they bombarded our house today.
Yeah.
And they're having a party in our living room, swinging from the fans and zip lines. And it was my daughter's birthday yesterday, and they brought her a present with all this candy from Turkey, because that's where Santa Claus was originally born. So they brought me some to try while they're in the house trying stuff. They had to bring it out for me to try too.
Now you've hurt me twice today. Man. You got fish when I had no fish, and now you have candy when I have no candy. This is rough.
Dad, tell him about the elves that we saw on Facebook.
Oh, I don't remember.
Where they filled the bathtub with.
Oh yeah, the elves filled the bathtub with spaghetti.
Not ours. Someone else's. And then tell him.
Okay, we gotta get back there.
The P-word.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, Dad, we're not gonna interrupt you.
Okay, have a good night. Good night, bud. Yeah, our elves decided to have a baby this week too.
Wow, that's a busy place.
Yes, it is. Well, it's going to be a great event. I'm looking forward to it. Now I got to ask, and I guess it's kind of been the talk amongst a bunch of the guys around here. The show's been here once before. It's been in Wausau. It's been in Milwaukee. Why did you guys choose Oshkosh for the event for, moving forward?
So I couldn't speak to those other events only because that, those are obviously different owners groups and whatnot. We were very specific, and I can even kind of show you behind the curtain, so to speak. When we began working on this back in 2021, we actually looked at all of the venues. So, we run the Wisconsin Fishing Expo over at the Alliance Center in February. We looked at that venue. We looked at the venues in the Dells. We looked at Wausau. We looked at a couple of venues in the Milwaukee area. And then the list actually gets kind of short. There's actually not that many places big enough to do what we wanted to do in the state of Wisconsin. La Crosse had a competitive issue and really didn't want to be on the western side of the state because Minnesota's got 4 or 5 expos anyhow. So focusing on this side of the state, we went venue by venue and literally did site visits and the whole I even mapped out some of them in this computer system that we use. So we got pretty deep into the weeds on the analysis. And then when we started looking at, okay, fisheries and population centers and things like that, everything keeps coming back to Winnebago, right? You've got the whole spearing culture and season. You have a tremendous fishery, not only in Winnebago itself, but the Upper Lakes. You've got population centers in Green Bay and all of the Fox cities. I live in Freedom. You're local too, and so as we honed in on this, it became really obvious that this is where we needed to be when you look at highway access and the venue and all of these different, kind of not, they're not very fishing related, but real technical type things. It just became really clear that this was the place to go. We pretty firmly believe with some of the advertising we're doing that we'll be able to draw people all the way from Chicago, so all the way through southeastern Wisconsin. We think we might even be able to draw a little bit from the UP. I don't think we're probably going to draw past Wausau because, Frank, I grew up in Chippewa Falls. I'm probably not going to run down to Oshkosh when I can run to St. Paul, from that neck of the woods. But everyone else in that big circle, if you can imagine a kind of a half a circle that goes all the way to Lake Michigan, swoops down to Chicago and runs north of Green Bay, we think that those people will give us a good run to potentially come and check us out this year, next, the year beyond. And so we just felt like this was absolutely the right place to be.
Sure. Now, I'm going to maybe count the chickens before they hatch, but do you guys have a contract, a multi-year deal, or is this kind of a trial year?
It's definitely not a trial year. I to tell you the truth, because that's not my bailiwick. I'm kind of the booth guy. I don't know that the guys have signed a multi-year contract yet, but I would say this. The management team at Sunnyview is really terrific to work with. They represent Winnebago County extremely well. And so if we're not signed up already, for a multi-year, I know that that'll be very easy to do. And to be frank, we've already got our dates picked out for next year. We're pretty well ready to just keep rolling with this thing. I have no expectation that we're going to have any issues this weekend unless, some horrible act of God that none of us wants to talk about happens. And otherwise, I think this is going to be the start of something special.
Awesome. We have a lot of anglers in this, Fox Valley area, just in itself. So we're hoping that everybody, has seen the show. It's a really good weekend. There's really not a whole lot happening yet for, people doing Christmas stuff. So it is a great weekend to have it. The big manufacturers and everything are coming over from St. Paul. All the same booths for the most part that you see online that's happening over there. You're going to have all that stuff here. You're going to have all the manufacturers' representatives. So if you have questions about products, that maybe you don't want, like a retail guy to help you out with more technical stuff, there's going to be engineers and stuff like that from some of these companies that will be there to, talk a little bit more technical stuff. And it's always nice to be able to do that, right? If you're, one of those guys where you have to know the ins and outs of everything, that you want to buy and you want to touch it before you buy it, this is going to be the show to do it.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think you make a really valid point there. The gear is so much more technical now than it was even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I worked for one of the major outdoor sporting goods retailers from 1993 until 2009. And even now, the stuff just blows away what we used to sell, in terms of its complexity and its features and benefits. And so, what a great opportunity. If you're in the market for a hub shack, you're going to be able to come here and see them all and walk in and out of them and touch them and feel them. And in most cases, I don't think there's an issue where, oh, this one is horrible and this one is awesome. They're both terrific, but they're going to have individual things that you may like better than the other, right? So it's kind of like the old pickup truck argument, Chevy, Ford, Dodge. Well, each one has things that are good and everybody kind of chooses the one that they like. It's kind of a similar situation, but here you're going to have that opportunity to do that investigation, to ask those questions, and to really be able to make an educated decision as you make those kind of investments. Or the same thing with rods or electronics or any of these different things, because there's a lot of choices out there now.
Yep. And you made exact point. The advancement in technology and, the innovation of all these companies You go back and you look at what we fished with, even 5-10 years ago. I mean, we don't even have to go back 20 years. It's remarkable. I mean, whether it be apparel, rods, reels, line, shacks, tackle, everything is so much more advanced than what we've did when we were kids. I can't believe there's any fish left in the lakes, honestly. And I don't know how we even caught fish back when we grew up. Looking at what we know now.
Yep. No, you're exactly right. It's and I guess that's I guess one of the real enticements, right? Is that so not only are you going to be able to see all this stuff, touch it, feel it, talk about it, kick it around, talk to experts about it, but then you step over to the seminar room, you may learn some new ways to use it, some things you hadn't even thought about, and for most people, they're going to be able to apply, depending on how far away they come from, they're going to apply those lessons locally, hopefully within just a week or two or maybe 3.
Yep. Awesome. Well, so we've got a couple of free sets of tickets from the guys at the Wisconsin Ice Fishing Expo. And how do we want? Let's do a number here for the first set. I'm thinking of a number from, let's just do 1 to 100, and closest one here in the next 20 seconds, we'll get the first set of tickets. So all you guys got to do is just comment on, whether you're on YouTube or anything. Closest one will get that first free set of tickets. So free parking, food shacks. Who's going to be there for food?
So we've got Legendary Euros, Inferno Subs, and then over on the other side of things, we're actually, several people have asked, and we haven't talked about that, but there will be beer service, somewhat limited, 6-8 choices, I'm told, cans and whatnot. But then the over on that side of the building, the names escape me. It is On the Fritz.
Okay.
That's over on the other side there. And then in addition to them, we'll also have 2 different jerky outfits and a kettle corn operator. And then we have this Travelin' Joe's coffee food truck. So they're going to have some pastries and stuff like that, but offering specialty brews, cold and hot coffee mixes, kind of your high-end stuff all day long. So whether you like a cold beer and a brat, or whether you like a fancy sandwich, or you like snacky foods, hot or cold drinks, we got you covered one way or the other.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to end this one, and my number was 73, and we've got Ron Parsons had number 72. So Ron, what I need you to do is just private message me or send me a private message through my Mr. Bluegill page, or just go to my regular Facebook page. We'll get your information, and then we'll send you over the code and everything to get that free set of tickets. So, hey, thanks to everybody for chiming in, and we'll give another set away here. We'll think of a good way to do it, but congrats on the first one. And Don, thank you for for offering those up. That's much appreciated.
Yeah, no problem. I think that'll be really fun to have a couple people come and join us.
Yeah, well, I hope we have a whole bunch of people coming to join us. Now, the weather looks great. It's going to get warm. We were on about 2 to 3 inches of ice or so. Shorelines are already starting to go away. And with the 40s and the 50 degrees coming by the end of the week, the ice around here is pretty much going to be gone. So that means, guys, get out, come to the show. Sunday's a little questionable. I've got a friend that does a lot of weather stuff, and it's looking like we might have a really big snowstorm come in on Sunday. So at this point in the game, I'm hoping that we lose all our ice. We don't have those lakes that have 2-3 inches, and then we get a big snowstorm, and let all this stuff just go away, get some fresh snow, cool that water off even more, and then it can get cold, and then keep the snow away for a while.
Boy, I agree with you there. There's nothing worse than a big dump of snow on new ice, right? I mean, 5 inches of snow on 14 inches of ice, no big deal. 5 inches of snow on 2.5 inches of ice, it just screws up stuff for a month. So yeah. I hadn't heard the report of big snow on Sunday yet. I'd heard chances of some showers and snow flurries. You're right. That might get a little interesting on Sunday, but At least we don't have a huge dump storm coming or crazy cold or anything like that.
Yep. No, and I think it's supposed to be Sunday night too, the way it looks. So hopefully the show will be done. Everybody can get back home, and then the snow will come and make it nice and interesting for Monday morning.
If it's like any other of these shows that I've done, what takes vendors 2 days to set up, they can pack up in like 2.5 hours.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
it goes out really quick. And the goal is to sell everything so we don't have to take anything.
Right.
So there you go, guys. Maybe Sunday is the day to come if you're looking for some really good deals. I know in the past, Sunday's kind of a fire sale day. These guys, it's the last show of the season. They don't want to take anything back. They don't want to pack anything up. Come and wheel and deal, and there's probably a good chance you guys are going to score some pretty good products at some pretty good prices. So definitely looking forward to having everybody there. Does anybody have any questions for Don? Otherwise, we're going to let him probably get to bed here. I know they're going to have a busy couple of days, but if anybody has any questions for him, now's the time to ask. When we got what, Eskimo, Clam. Who are some of the big manufacturers that are going to be there?
So we've got, I think, besides those two big outfits, then of course we have almost every apparel company in the ice field that you can think of. And I'm actually just going to, kind of run through them quick. You've got the ones that you'd recognize, obviously, Clam's got their own stuff, Eskimo's got their own stuff. But we've also got like DSG has got a huge booth there. We've got Fortress, we've got Graph USA. There's even a couple others that I'm probably forgetting, but so Wind Rider is another one that comes to mind. Then of course we've got a bunch of the corporate booths from St. Paul. So you've got Rapala Strike Master, 13 Fishing, you've got Norsk Lithium, we've got Amped Outdoors, so a lot of different power options. You've got Heat Hog, we've got auger companies, so you've got Ion and Jiffy. Right, of course, that's all Artisan now. I mentioned Strike Master. We've got Razor augers there, and then of course you've got a bunch of what I would consider to be really specialty ice companies, folks like Cold Snap, Deep Freeze, Widowmaker lures, and then some of these really unusual specialty stuff. Bite Me Box Tip Ups from up in Green Bay, or this Ryan Ebert, who's an artist that does spearing decoys and all kinds of cool stuff. You got Kerry with Automatic Fishermen up in Green Bay. And then we've got some tourism, right? We got North Dakota and a few others. You've got some other really specialty stuff like Fish Daddy Outdoors or Vulture Systems. Of course, and we've really not touched on this, but we've got the WIFA, the Wisconsin Interscholastic Fishing Association, the high school fishing teams. They're all going to be with us all weekend, doing a bunch of volunteering and raising awareness of their whole program for kids, which is just growing like a weed. So there's really and I mentioned, some of the conservation organizations. You've got DNR and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and then other big brands like HT and whatnot, some specialty ATV stuff. So there's really a very broad swath from little bitty to really, really big time stuff, spread all amongst them. And then of course, like I mentioned, we've got 3 big wheelhouse skid house manufacturers, and in 2 cases they're local dealers coming. So there'll be a lot of stuff to look at. My guess is if you're not just hustling, it will take you 4 or 5 hours to look through the show. And then on top of that, you have to add in whatever seminar time you spend.
Sure. So we've got a few questions. Let's go right down the line here for us. Besides skipping the lines, is there a benefit to pre-ordering tickets?
No. So there's no early on. A couple of months ago, there was some discounted ticket offers, but at this point, the reason to order tickets in advance would be to expedite your entry process. Okay.
And then Casey has, where is the best place to get info on the show and seminars? I posted the link. It's icefishexpo.com. All the information is there. I believe, are all the times for the seminars and stuff on that?
Yes.
Well?
Yep.
Okay.
So if people like following the immediate hubbub, follow our Facebook page, but the home, where all of the knowledge is stored is on the website for sure.
Perfect. And then let's see, what is the easiest in and out lot? So there really is, you've got the main lot right in front of the expo center. You're going to come off of Highway 41, I'm guessing. You're going to come down Highway 45. And when you get to the first set of stop and go lights, you're going to take a left.
That's
that
Highway Y,
right? Yep. Highway Y. You're going to take a left. And are you guys going to have signage there for parking and where the show is?
Yep. So you're going to go down about a quarter mile and it's on your left again. If you go into our website, we actually have an excellent parking map that my graphics guy built out that literally shows you right how to do it. And then we'll be using those two biggest lots right there. The secondary entrance that I think gets used maybe for Life Fest and for the fair over by the BMX track, that'll be shackled off. So you won't be able to do that. You're going to want to come in that main entrance off of Y, and there'll be big signage there. We'll actually be doing remote ticketing. So you'll have 2 rows of cars coming in right there. Ticketing will be done. We actually have an ambush skid house out there to use as a portable office. They'll be ticketing you right in the car. So then you can go into the parking lot at your leisure. If you want to walk into Wheelhouses first and go check that out, or go fish the trout pond and then come into the Stevenson Hall, the main hall there later, that's totally up to you.
Okay. Let me ask you this, because this, I think, gets overlooked a lot of times. We're giving all the people that want to come to the show all the information. How about for the exhibitors? What time can they get in? When, where do they get their tickets? Parking for them and their trailers? I guess all that kind of information.
Yeah. So kind of give you a rough timeline. I'll be down there tomorrow along with our team doing decorations and all of the pipe and drape, right? Because all of that stuff's all got to be put up first. Then we're going to start moving in vendors on Thursday. And vendors have all been communicated with directly. So they know their instructions in terms of where to go and what time. It'll take us all day. So we'll be doing setup all day on Thursday. Then they also come back. And some vendors, of course, will choose to come to town Friday morning, depending on where they're at. And if they don't have a huge setup, some vendors will set up Friday morning. We ask that all that's done at noon, so we get a chance to get a breath and a bite, and then show opens at 1 o'clock. And we use an online convention management software, so we communicate with the vendors by email at this time of year almost every couple days to kind of keep them all appraised. And as they come in and check in, we'll give them some additional information about what's going on for the course of the weekend. And we try to keep our vendor family well updated so they know what's going on.
Perfect. And parking for those guys, just so they know when where do you want the trailers and all that kind of stuff.
So there's a newer lot at Sunnyview that is a little east of the main lot. It's gravel, and you'll see it on our map. It's a big square. We're going to start by having vendors parking over there, and if they overflow, then we'll keep them in the outermost part of the other main lot.
Okay. Guys are asking when does the lot open?
So like on Friday, we'll be ready to start ticketing, by noon for the 1 o'clock show. But we won't, I guess it'll be the honor system there, right? Food trucks will be there. Will they be ready to serve you before the 1 o'clock opening? Yeah, maybe not. I mean, 1 is really 1, not like secret nudge 12:15. But we will be allowing people in earlier, and we'll do the national anthem and then open the doors at 1 o'clock.
All right. Who knows, man? It's Wisconsin ice fishermen. Nothing's going to keep them from coming and tailgating and probably doing some burgers and brats and beer out in the parking lot. Wouldn't put it past these guys, man.
If we get some tailgate action going, we may have to exploit that for a future show. That was one that was not on my radar, but I like where you're going.
If I know these guys around here, there might be some tailgating going on.
If I see Gillespie out there in the back of a truck, hawking Johnsonville's, we'll know that we've hit the big time.
Well, we might have to get some catch and cook out there and do some fish fries for everybody too.
There we go.
Let's see. Well, I think what we'll do here is just I'm going to have everybody, if you guys can all share the link here after this is all done, because we want to broadcast this, to as many people as we can. I'll go through and just all you got to do, make a comment. Most of the guys got some likes, but tag a buddy or two, put somebody's name in a comment, and then I'll go through and I'll pick another winner here for that second pair of tickets, get your information, and then the guys we'll get you a code then tomorrow. So and I'll close that off. Let's say, because I know people are going to watch this, we'll close that off at noon tomorrow. So you guys will have till noon tomorrow, and that way there, if other people watch this and share it throughout the morning, we'll have that many more people getting out there. So Don, hey, I greatly appreciate you spending some time with me tonight, and really looking forward to coming down and helping out and seeing everybody and meeting you guys in person and having a real successful show.
Yeah, no, I very much appreciate the opportunity. It was great talking to you, and love being able to field questions for folks. We're super excited to bring it to life, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on Friday.
Sounds good, Don. You have a good night. We're going to keep talking a little bit of fishing here and talk about some more of those vendors. I know some of my good friends and a lot of products that I use are going to be there. The Bite Me Boys, the Vultures. If you've never seen the Bite Me's and you've never seen the Vultures, that is probably the best setup anybody could ever have for a tip up. And we'll be able to set everything up and show everybody at the show and see why all these companies are, why they are the best there is.
Awesome.
All right, Don, have a good evening. We'll see you on Thursday. We'll be there setting up on Thursday with the Eskimo boys.
Even better. Sounds good. Thank you.
Have a good night. All right, so there it is, guys. Thank you to Don for coming in. He answered pretty much every question that there was to answer. And if anybody does have anything, or if it comes to mind, please just send me a note. Type it on here. I'll be monitoring this. Share away, and we will pick another winner for a second set of tickets tomorrow. Normally, prices at the gate, I believe, are $10, free parking, and you're going to get a whole bunch of information. I guarantee if you go in there and you're looking to buy something, you're going to get that $10 back. No problem. You're going to save that. So enough with the show here. Let's kind of talk about what's happening ice fishing. I made it out today. It wasn't the best of ice. I was on the Winnebago system. I will say that. The main bodies of water are wide open. The wind was blowing pretty good today, and was breaking up a lot of the ice even into the bays that was there. And these temperatures, guys, we're going to be 40, 50 degrees here the rest of this week, and looks like some rain and stuff coming in. So my guess is that this ice that we have right now is probably going to be gone. The shorelines, for the most part, even after today, are probably not walkable anymore. You'd probably need some good tall boots or some boards or something to walk out on. But there is ice. If you really look hard enough, any of the shallow bays right now have some ice that started to form. Not everything's fishable, and I was surprised even some of the channels are still quite wide open, but that's because you've got all those springs and artesian wells and some pumps and everything kicking water into there. And even when we were catching fish today, the fish were warm. You can tell that water is warming up, and all that warm water blowing underneath the ice and stuff was definitely number one, it's making it dirty. So it's really dirty, hard for those fish to see. So we were using a lot of bright colored jigs, but it was a lot warmer than what I expected. Let's see, how big was that bluegill posted? I didn't put a tape to it yet. I've got it. I've got that one in the bucket. And let's see, can you buy tickets right there? Brian, yes, you'll be able to buy tickets right there. We kept, oh boy, what was it? I think there was 38 between the two of us that we kept. We're going to cook a bunch of those guys up here this weekend, get the catch and cook batter out, and can't wait to have some fresh bluegills. Those first ice bluegills are always my favorite. Let's see, favorite lures for bluegill, Cody. Cody, that's a really good topic and a good debate to get into is, you see all these different people looking at all these high-end custom painted baits and such. And, my favorite is probably going to be, a number or a 3mm or 4mm tungsten. I've got some custom baits that were made for me. I'm not talking fancy painted or anything. Most of my stuff is usually an alternating in color. So one side will be a bright color, another side, and then the other side will be a dark color. So that when you're jigging, you're getting that contrast, that flash. And that's really what entices a lot of these fish. I've got some droppers on some jigs that, again, will be an opposite color of what the jig head is, so that when you're jigging and constantly moving that bait, that you're getting that alternating flash to really, bring these fish in. When it comes time to really dirty water, like what we were in today, I'll bring out, the brightest colors I have, whether it be just plain orange or plain pink. Again, nothing super fancy, just really a plain orange tungsten with maybe a couple black specks or something on it, but nothing real crazy. When we get into really clear water, it's all natural colors, whether it be, I love copper. Copper, for some reason, is always been my favorite, whether it be for walleyes, bluegills, crappies, any fish really that I fish for. It seems that when I'm in, fairly clean water, that copper does really well. It's kind of a mix between a copper or a nickel plated and a gold plated. When it's sunny outside, you want to use, that gold, that darker, flashier color. When it's cloudy outside, you want to use more of that, nickel, that bright today, and, that brightness to give more of a flash. It really depends on, the water quality and, whether it's stained or dirty. That makes a difference too. And there is a difference between stained water and dirty water. Dirty water is that's what it is. It's just dirty. There's a lot of, sediment that's floating around, and it's usually really cloudy. And you're going to have to use something that either makes noise or has a lot of flash, but more so probably just color. And when it's, you got the stained water, certain colors are going to look better underwater than what, other colors will. Believe it or not, blacks, dark colors in that stained water always seem to do very well for me. And I think it's just because they're able to see that contrast, then and that's what really fish see. People think that fish see colors like what humans see colors, and they don't. And we go through this, this conversation happens every single time we start talking about baits. And I am not this guy that's going to promote spending a ton of money on custom painted baits, because number one, the fish don't see the colors like that. They see hues, they see contrast, they see an alternating flash. They don't look at, oh, look at that, that's really got awesome scale patterns, or man, look at all the fine details and all these fine painted lines. They don't see that kind of stuff. You give them, a split second, you're constantly moving that bait. If you're doing it right, that spoon should never stop moving, or that tungsten should never stop moving. And you really should never give that fish any chance to see the details of a paint job on a bait. I primarily is going to be, for walleyes is copper, gold, silver, and maybe like a green and white or a pink and white, something that's really bright for, cloudy, dirty water. Other than that, when it comes time to bluegills, your basics, plain orange, a red, a black, copper, and the color that, I have that I really like is a darker pink with a really bright green, and it's kind of like a watermelon, and it's split down the middle, so that when you're jigging, if you actually look at it, when it's underwater, it kind of, as you're jigging, you're getting that roll, you really see a contrast and flash. And then when I'm fishing, if I'm fishing plastics, I'm going to either use something, supernatural, what they're feeding on. A lot of times, red worms or, thunderbugs or hellgrammite style type baits, natural bugs. But my favorite is still, maggots. And I will always put a couple reds and a couple whites. If they get super finicky, I'll drop down to maybe one red spike or one white spike and try that and see if that entices them to bite. But do the opposite sometimes. Sometimes, if people think that, okay, these bluegills are getting finicky. We got to downsize. No, go up, go bigger. Instead of putting 1 or 2 spikes on, put like 15 spikes on, or put, some big wax worms, or, maybe some bigger plastic, or even some small spoons or little jig and wrap style baits, and trigger these fish to bite. Because bluegills are predators, man. They can be the most annoying fish that swims and come in and get right in front of your bait and look at it, and their eyeballs are going every which way when you watch them on the camera. And they can come in and absolutely smash, a 1/4 ounce spoon. So you got to try different things, but don't always just go smaller. Don't be afraid to go bigger and faster, and trigger those fish to bite. Especially in clear water. In clear water, those bluegills can see those baits from a long ways away. And you got to remember where bluegills' eyes are. In any fish, their eyes are on top of their head. Bluegills, as a bait falls, it's a lot of times when these fish are triggered is when a bait falls. And you'll be watching, even today, I was watching my baits fall. They'd get down, and all of a sudden, there'd be a fish 2 feet up above my bait. Well, it just didn't come up from that high. That fish was way over here, and it's seen that bait falling underneath the ice, because that's where the brightest light was, and that's where the best the best visibility was for that fish. It's seen that, and it swam up there looking for something that fell down, and it can't see down below it, but can always see up. So that's what's the important part about having a good electronics flash or whatnot, is to be able to see those fish that are up higher. So I immediately raised my bait back up and was fishing right underneath the ice, and kind of figured something out, that actually a lot of the fish today came within a foot of ice underneath the ice. Underneath, we were probably 6.5 feet of water or so. And a lot of those fish seen those baits, because you got, just picture if you're laying down on the bottom of the lake and you're looking up. You've got this giant sheet of white, that light's penetrating through the ice. And anything that moves through that white is a contrast. And that's what those fish are seeing. And with their eyes up above, they can see the contrast and stuff moving around underneath this big white sheet. That's what they're seeing. Now, if that bait's down here, and I don't know, unless you're fishing really white sand or bright sand, the bait's down low, unless those fish are laying on the bottom, a bluegill's not going to look down and see that bait. And not only that, it's going to be hard for them to see it, because you've got a dark bait on a dark bottom. There's no contrast anymore. That contrast is gone. So that's why you always want to try and keep your baits up high. The fish that are going to feed, if they're hungry, they're going to swim up there and eat your bait, period. If they're not hungry, they're going to lay down on the bottom. They're going to stay down there. You can drop a bait down there, and yeah, every once in a while, you're going to catch a fish just because they're curious or whatnot. But for the most part, the fish that are feeding and the fish that are hungry are going to be up here. And if they see a bait, they're going to swim up to it. And if, depending on obviously the depth that you're fishing, especially if you're, 6-8 feet or less, most of the time they're going to be able to see up high enough that if you keep your baits up there, you're going to have fish come rocketing up there. And a lot of times when they see that, what happens when you've got a bait a foot underneath the ice, and all of a sudden this fish comes in from the bottom, it isn't a real slow come up and look at it. No, if that bait's up here and you see a fish coming up out of the bottom, they're usually racing up. They'll grab it, hit it hard, and try and swim back down right away. So, you increase that chance of hooking percentage and actually getting that bite, especially a reaction bite when it's up there. They're going to come up and cruise and haul ass after it and bite it. Let's see. Pound the bottom for gills or keep it higher in column. Yeah, Ben, that's what I just talked about. When we're in like water that's a foot, maybe 2 feet, some really, really shallow water late in the season, these big bluegills will start moving into some of these weeded bays. And that's when I will start pounding the bottom to kind of stir up a cloud. And, we'll fish, sometimes we got to go super microscopic on baits and just let those things lay in the mud, almost like a red worm. We'll put a little, that Euro tackle red worms, we'll put them on there and lay that jig down on the bottom in the mud and just quiver it and sit there and sight fish them. So it looks like a worm or a larva is sitting there swimming around in the mud. And those bluegills will sit up and just stare at it. And, it may take a minute or two to get one to bite. That's when they get super finicky. But, yes, there are times when those fish will eat right off the bottom and pick food up off the bottom. But for the most part, 90% of my fish I catch are going to be high in the water column. And, when we do our jigging techniques, it's a real slow, constantly moving. You're jigging. I'll bring it all the way up to right underneath the ice and then let my bait fall down and then repeat. And a lot of times as that bait falls, like I was saying, all of a sudden, a fish will be up at 3 feet and quick, bring your bait back up there. Most of the time, as that bait's falling and that fish doesn't see it right away or misses it, if you bring your bait right back up right away, good chance that he's going to turn back up and go after it. If not, let it free fall back down and then slowly start working it up. Because what happens is when those fish go down, that's when they turn and they'll swim down. And then if they see that bait that's kind of near the bottom, they're going to swim down to it, out of curiosity. And as you bring it right back up in front of their nose, that's a good chance that they're going to bite it then. But a lot of times too, you'll do that and you'll start jigging and you'll make that fish come all the way back up to right underneath the ice again. And that's when they're going to eat it. So always keep your bait moving and always keep it higher than what you would normally think. Now, let's say we're fishing some weeds. And, if anybody's ever been inside of a pine forest, that's kind of what these big cabbage beds and coontail beds and stuff like that look like. You've got a giant forest of all these big pines. Down on the bottom, you can see through all these areas. It's just tree trunks. But when you get up higher, it's nothing but a canopy. It's all, branches and crap. If you're fishing a flasher or, depending on what type of locator you have, you can't really see through those weeds down to where the stalks are or where the trunks would be. And that's like a clear path. They've got tunnels and their highways that they're constantly swimming through. But you're not able to see that because like an LCD graph, especially, has a hard time looking down through those weeds because the weeds just make it look like a big giant blob. That's why I still prefer my flashers, my M5s, over a lot of locators for fishing, in specifically because of the weeds. I can dial out and use the super fine line and put my narrow beam deucer on and look down past the canopy and down into the stalks. And that you have to make sure your bait gets down there. And then a lot of times it's hard to see, but you just got to look for that flicker. And, that flicker of your bait kind of moving through. You're not going to get a distinct line because there's so much other stuff that flasher's picking up on, but you're going to get that flicker. And learn how to read that flasher so you can get your bait down into those stalks, watch that flicker of your bait, and then all of a sudden you're going to see that maybe small flicker turn into a bigger flicker, and that's going to be the fish on top of your bait. That's the only time you're really going to fish those, down near the bottom, is when you get into those days where those fish are burying themselves down into those weeds and you have to go down after them. And that's going to be the only way. There's so many times where, again, just like, us, we can see very little down through. The fish can't really see up past those canopies or up past the tops of the weeds either. So, yes, you're going to find those weed pockets, and, if you can do that, great. And, you got a little bit more of an advantage, but, fishing down in those stalks and in those stump fields is what, whatever you want to call it. It takes, a little bit of, a learning to read that flasher and read that graph. And, that's why I still use a flasher. Let's see. Clear water, what size line you use? Great question, John. So I'm obviously everybody knows, a big Seaguar guy, and their IceX line that came out here a couple years ago, they've got 3 new sizes this year. They go all the way up to 15 pounds now. That used to be, I believe it all just went up to 8 pounds. So now we got a 10, 10, 12, 15, maybe. I got to go back and look. My memories, I brought them all out. I was going to make a video on the ice today and I forgot. But anyway, we got some heavier line in the new IceX. and then they make the small spools of the gold label. Now, for people that have never fished gold label, what it is an extremely strong, but yet thinner than most diameters of line that's out there. So their gold label in a 2-pound is probably equivalent to like a 3/4 or a 1-pound diameter, but still holds the strength of, a normal 2-pound line. And the nice thing about that is now not only is it, small diameter, thin, but it's fluorocarbon, right? It disappears. So you get the best of all three when it comes time to fishing line. So back in the day, having to use 3/4 pound or 1 pound, basically sewing thread, those days are over because you've got something that is made for doing what we want to do. Now, the line debate, and I'm actually going to talk about this. I'm going to try and do a video and actually get a tank or go in the water and shoot some video on this. Let's talk a little bit about line once. Why fluorocarbon? Why monofilaments? What are the differences? And when is the time, the best time to use? Everybody thinks, oh, you just got to use fluorocarbon all the time. No, not necessarily true. Fluorocarbon is going to work probably 90% of the time, and that's pretty much what I use on just about everything. But here's what the difference is between fluorocarbon and monofilament. Fluorocarbon is going to have a lot less stretch than what monofilament is. It's going to be more representable to a braid. It's going to snap before it's going to stretch. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't pull on it, and any little bit of pull is just going to be brittle and break. The Seaguar stuff does not do that. There is still a lot of strength there. So less stretch, better hook set. The abrasion resistance, I did a seminar here at the high school a couple of weeks ago, and I had some of my old line on yet, and we were talking about how important it is to keep respooling your line on your ice reels. When we're open water fishing, we're just casting and retrieving. If you're fishing around rocks, your leader, down a little bit might get a little bit of fraying or nicks or something like that. But when we're ice fishing, you got to remember you're constantly rubbing that line. If this is your hole, that line's constantly rubbing around the edge of your hole, and that's sharp ice. So you're really putting a lot of strain on your line. My favorite, I still use the braid and a leader, fluorocarbon leader, for all my walleye stuff. For the main reason is the abrasion resistance. And, I use I run a 10-pound smackdown to a small little tiny swivel, and then a fluorocarbon leader, and that is my walleye setup. When you start looking at the abrasion resistance of fluorocarbon versus monofilament, you're going to get a lot less breakage from rubbing around the ice. But the other thing, probably more important than anything when we're fishing bluegills, and especially when we start getting into light tackle and shallow water, is the fact that fluorocarbon sinks and monofilament floats. So if we're fishing super light jigs, if I'm going to, some dry fly hooks or some dry flies and fishing really finicky bluegills in shallow water, I want that bait to almost have a neutral buoyancy, to go really, really, really slow. And that's when I have to pull out my monofilament line, because my fluorocarbon is going to sink faster than I want that bait to go down. And we don't want that. We want that line to kind of be, neutral buoyance and be able to have that bug or whatever we're trying to represent for those bluegills to fall really, really slow. And on the flip side of that, obviously, if we're fishing tungstens, there's no reason to use anything but fluorocarbon, because tungsten is just going to fall that much faster. So really light jigs and, small, just plain hooks, when we're finessing these fish, switch back to a monofilament. And I've got a couple that are rigged up with a 1 and 2 pound mono. And, the favorite there is going to be the Maxima Chameleon. I've used that line for many, many years. It's a very, very good monofilament line. The best when it comes time to cold weather. It's very soft, subtle, and very, doesn't have those kinks and that slinky effect. And even if it does, if you do have it sitting on your reel for a while, it's real easy. Typically you're only fishing in 5-6 feet of water or less. Just take that 5 or 6 feet, give it a little bit of a stretch, and all that memory goes away, and you got a nice straight line again. The other reason, importance of using inline reels is to prevent the coils from happening on a spinning rod. So that's kind of the whole line tidbit, I guess, as far as why it's important to know what you're doing. And there's applications obviously for monofilament yet. Fluorocarbon isn't 100% thing all the time. Like I said, 90% of the time it is. But that other 10% of the time, when you need something to fall slow and give that more natural presentation of something in the water, don't be afraid to switch back to monofilament. Let's see, what else do we got? Any other questions? Plastic or grubs? I love live bait, man. There's days where if like I said, we were talking about earlier, if they're finicky, we got to try and figure out, do they want bigger? Do they want more natural stuff? Are they looking for flash? Are they looking for scent? Whatever it is. And those are the days that, yep, I'm going to go through my entire bag of plastics. I'm going to go through whatever I have in my arsenal to figure out what works. And you'll start picking the fish apart. And really, let's say if you're fishing spikes and they're just really not fully committing, then you go to a wax worm and now they're showing a little bit more interest but still not committing. All right, then I'm going to go up to some bigger bugs and some plastic and try and see if that triggers them. And a lot of times that's what it takes, is to go to some bigger the Euro tackle, like the little Helgramites. Those guys they're bigger, but the fish eat them all summer long if they're looking for a big meal. And a lot of times the small ones aren't going to be a problem. You're not going to have to worry about fighting out the small ones because they're not going to eat those bigger baits, and you're just going to get those bigger fish. I'm going to be the first, I say it all the time, guys, fish don't eat 24/7. They don't eat all the time. There's plenty of days that we go out and we can't catch them. Doesn't matter what you do. They're just not going to eat, but you can still go through your arsenal. If you have the patience and you want to try and learn and figure stuff out, just start throwing different stuff at them. Go bigger, go to spoons, go to little jigging wraps, get away from the typical bluegill style baits and go towards more, like bigger crappie, style stuff. Little fun story is, the first time I ever went up to northern Minnesota and fished with, the guys from 13 Fishing, they took me on some ponds, and we get up there and they got their bluegill rods and I got my bluegill rods, and I look over and it looks like they're getting ready to jig walleyes. I'm like, what are you guys using? And they had honestly, like quarter ounce size jigs that we'd use for, vertical jigging in the river for walleyes. And they're going to fish these bluegills. I'm like, what? I'm clueless. I have no idea what's going on. And that's just a different strain of fish up there. They would not touch any of my small tungsten stuff. No interest in it. Too small. These fish wanted, I swear to God, if you would have put a 3-inch Milwaukee shiner down the hole, they would have ate it. That's the style of food that they wanted to eat. So I know that these fish will eat bigger baits. I watch them in my pond, and what they're eating, chasing minnows and stuff around. Bluegills are predators, man. They will eat big food. So if you can't get them small, keep trying big. The good old halo is always tied on something. Yeah, that's a great bait there too. John, thanks for coming over, man. Again, please share away. Everybody that shares is going to have a chance at winning a free set of tickets for the show this weekend. And who knows, maybe we'll throw something else in there too if you guys come see me at the booth. And we might have some extra goodies to toss in as well. So that's that. Back to kind of what the ice is doing is I know some lakes up north. There's some reports up in the Minocqua area now of 5 to 6 inches of ice. A lot more fish up there, a lot more fishable ice up there. Down here, the Winnebago system, a lot of the channels and that are opening back up. Shorelines are starting to get pretty soft, and the ice just isn't solid. I mean, you've got like 2 inches of maybe good ice with another inch or two of frozen slush on top from that snowfall, and it seemed to kind of melt and then refreeze, and it's just white garbage ice. We need some cold weather. We need it a really good cold spell here, and it doesn't look like we're going to get that till probably the end of next week or middle to end of next week. So pray for some cold weather. The lakes are wide open, and at this point, I'm okay with that. If we're going to get all this snow possibly on Sunday, let that stuff come. Let it sit in the water, or let it sink whatever's left, and let's start over with a fresh batch and not have to worry about the snow. Because that's what happened last year up in northern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin. These guys got a little bit of ice, and then they just got dumped on with snow, and the whole rest of the season was junk for them because they couldn't get out anywhere. So we don't want that. Let's see. Tom Bolt going Saturday afternoon to the show, or after. Yeah, perfect. We'll see you on Saturday. We'll be there. Look for us. Critters is going to be there. He's going to have all the 2B Elliott stuff. We're going to have a bunch of deals on Eskimo. He's got a bunch of apparel. The new E40 augers, there's going to be a battery promo, with that. Anybody buying one of the new E40s is going to get a free extra battery. Well supplies last. There's some great deals on the Ion Alphas, still the best auger on the market. There's oh boy. And the Vulture guys are going to be there. I know I talked to a bunch of guys at Minnesota, at St. Paul, about the Vulture systems. Please stop out. I'll gladly show you that. And I know Rick and Terry weren't at St. Paul, the Bite Me guys, and they will be at this show. So if anybody's looking to come out, check that out. Jeff Dex Harvey, any boots. It's funny that you say that. I'm a Norfin guy. I've been a Norfin guy for a long time. I love that style boot. Those EVA foam boots they're comfortable, they're warm, waterproof, don't have to worry about them cracking. And Jacek from Graff, Graff is a company, has a new set of boots that they brought out this year from Poland. All these boots guys come from Europe, from overseas. Americans just haven't figured it out yet. But I did get a set of those and tried them out. Some things I really, really like about these new boots. And here, let me just see if I can't find them, so I can talk to you about them. The one thing I did not like about the Norfins is the soles are really thin. And when I say, what I mean by that is the treads that are on the bottom of a Norfin, they're not very aggressive. So after a season's use, it's kind of like a pair of Crocs. After a season's use, they're pretty wore out. They're flat as can be, and pretty much slick, and you slide all over the place. These boots here have an extremely aggressive pattern on the bottom. The lugs are really thick and really high, a lot more traction. But one thing that it does is it gets your foot up higher off the ice, so they stayed warmer. When your foot's laying right on top of the ice and you've got full contact with a flat sole, you're going to have all that cold radiate through the bottom of the boot, and it's just going to be colder. I mean, it's just science. These guys here, their lugs are really high, really aggressive, gives you more airflow underneath, so your foot isn't sitting right on top of the ice here. And I'm going to copy and paste this link, and you guys can go over and take a look. There we go. There, I just copy and pasted that link in the messages here. Take a look at these. It's called the Vermont boot. It's like I say, another company from Poland. They stay flexible to 94 degrees below zero, less than 2 pounds per pair. You think about that, 2 pounds per pair. Most of your liners for some of the bigger Alpha Burleys and stuff like that, the liners that are in these boots weigh more than 2 pounds each, and this is 2 pounds per pair. That's liner, boot, everything. Extremely warm. Like I say, I've been wearing these types of boots now for probably going on 6 or 7 years or so. I was one of the first guys ever I actually ordered them from Belgium and got them here. been wearing them, promoting them, and really just there's nothing more to say about it than the fact that if you get cold feet, these are the style boots you want. Number one, with an EVA boot, you've got a bunch of tiny air bubbles that are in there that traps heat. It's insulation. Air is insulation. Paired that with some really good liners, and you never have to worry about getting cold or getting wet. Everybody that wears whether it be like these corkers or the anything with like a leather or synthetic material down on the bottom part of your boot, that gets wet, it absorbs water, and it freezes. I don't care if it says it's waterproof or not. The cold stays on top of that boot. You need a rubber boot. You need something that repels the water off and doesn't trap water, period. No laces, nothing that will hold water and freeze. And that's where these boots come into play. It's a foam. It's just like the same material that a Croc is made out of. You can flex it a million times and you're never going to get them to crack. And they just last. And like I was saying, my Norphins, I loved them. I go through a pair every winter because they would be flat by the end of the season. I'm really curious to see how these wear versus the Norphins. And for the Norphins, stay away from the ones with the cleats. Don't get suckered into that Klondike. It's not as comfortable. It's not as warm. Granted, it's the cleat is nice, but buy yourself some good spikes. Get some Catulas and slip those over the top of your boots and actually have good spikes. The cleats, it's kind of gimmicky. The soles are hard and they don't bend. They're not, like I say, they're not as comfortable. You want either the Elements, the new Elements, or the Yukons. Those two boots are the pure 100% EVA on top of these Vermont boots. And I believe these guys are going to set up a code for me as well. I will check back with them tomorrow, and that way there, guys, it's going to help get the name out and get some people to try them as well. So I'll post that on my Facebook page or on this chat, so you guys can come back and look at that. I'll check in with the guys over at Groff and see if they've got that done for me yet. But Dave, the new boots it's a Vermont boot. And here, give me 1 second. I'm just going to go run and grab the packaging, and then I'll show you guys. All right, I'm back here. So here's what we got. You can see the lugs, how much more meat there is on the bottom of these boots compared to what the Norphins were. Norphins were more like a tennis shoe. They had more smaller fins or whatever you want to call them. But these boots are incredible. And when you buy a pair, you're going to get a second liner with them as well. They got two different style liners. That way there, if, for maybe a little bit earlier season or whatnot, you're going to have a colder. These ones here, I believe, are down to minus 70 Celsius. So these are, it's so hard to read in Polish. Yeah, you're not going to get me to read those. It's in some gibberish language. So check them out. They're the name of the company. Groff is making them, but it's if we want to check it out, it's Lemigo, Lemigo. We'll put lemigo.pl. We'll type it in right now. www. lemigo.pl. So I just put the link. That is the actual manufacturer of these boots over in Poland. So far, I mean, I've worn now a couple days, and so far I love them. I like how much more traction they have, and I can definitely tell, even just walking on bare ice without any cleats at all today, they had more traction. They bit a little bit better. So still flexible, still, you can get down on your knees up and down and bend and not have to worry about cracking up by the toes or creating a crease or anything like that to worry about water intrusion. So Ben, they will be at the show. It is in the Graph booth. They have, I know, a bunch of apparel and stuff like that too, that they're going to have there. But yeah, check out the boots for sure. Looking forward to early ice on point. Absolutely. I can't wait. With how many walleyes we caught this fall, if only a quarter of those things make it back out in the lake, we're going to be catching a lot of fish. Now, there is a lot of small fish, but that's all right. Catching is catching, and it'll be a lot of fun. I can't wait. But we got to get some cold weather here, guys. We need some serious, serious cold. Let's see. So Eskimo will be there. We're going to have the factory booth will be set up. We'll have all the apparel, all the shacks, the E40s, the augers, and critters. We'll have 2B Elliott. We're going to have catch and cook, guys. We're going to have catch and cook at the show. I've got a whole bunch of that stuff coming in. There's going to be some great pricing. And not only that, but for the people that are local here in Oshkosh and Amro, catch and cook will be available at Piggly Wiggly in the very near future. So keep an eye out on that. I'm excited to get that stuff in here finally. We've been waiting. And I've got a full shipment coming in here that'll be here for the show and to get into the stores. So please check it out, try it out. Let us know what you think. And I know you'll love it. We sold piles and piles and piles of that stuff at the last few shows. I think we went through probably close to 3,000 to 4,000 bags of that stuff at St. Paul, and people love it. So I can't wait to get that in people's hands and see what everybody around here thinks. I know it's been very popular over in Minnesota and the Dakotas with Jay and Josh from Jay Siemens and Josh Fadden. Those guys have a great following over there. And I know a lot of people know who Jay is on Facebook and YouTube and stuff here. We're going to have his breading at the show. So check that out. Thorn Brothers is going to be there, another one of our retailers. Markham will have some great deals. 2B Elliott will have rods on sale through Critters that you don't see a whole lot of. Trying to think what else we're going to have. Like I say, Vulture, Bite Me. Oh boy, there's going to be so much there that you're definitely going to want to check it out. Again, it's not St. Paul. St. Paul, I think, had like 190 booths. That show's been going on for, 30 years now. This year was their 30th anniversary. So we got to start somewhere, and it'll be nice to have, the core group of people come to the Oshkosh. So let's see, what else are we missing? Any other questions or anything that you guys are looking for or anything I can help out with? Now's the time. I know we went a little past 9 o'clock, but I guess that's all right. We're just talking fishing. I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. Let's see. Ben's asking, Troy, can you talk about when to focus back in shallow water on a smaller lake? I've heard of mid-ice season shallow water bites. So right now, here's what happens. Right now, depending on the fish, crappies and bluegills, just before the ice, started to form, a lot of those fish go and sit over the deep basins on, these small glacier lakes. On shallow lakes like Poygan, Winnebago, Butamore, those fish, most of them are back into wherever the warmest water is. And, when I say that, the warmest water before it froze was channels, bays, weeds, any place that was, typically warm. perch a lot of times are right mixed into those shallower areas because that's where the food was. Crappies are one of those fish where they go out, get into big giant schools, and get out over the deepest parts of the lake, and they're just kind of hovering there. And they'll move in and out of those weed beds, morning and evenings to feed, but then typically they'll just kind of stay out there. And then here in the next couple weeks, that's when they'll finally start to come in, and they'll start migrating and just kind of hanging around weed edges and such. As the season progresses, on these smaller lakes, the bluegills and crappies and panfish, for whatever reason, or I guess just group them all into a general panfish category. What happens is they hang out over the deep basins during the day, and they will go up super shallow at night and then in the morning, and then they'll just kind of slide back out. And what you're wanting to find is good weed beds, really thick weeds, and find those pockets, or like I was talking about earlier, find those areas that have really good coverage on top and then stalks down on the bottom. And that's where I typically find a lot of my bluegills all season long. It's not just mid-season. It can be all season. They go up to feed and they go back out deep to kind of hang around and get away from the predators, obviously, because wherever, the bluegill, wherever there's food, that's where the fish are going to be. The bluegills are up shallow, the pike and the bass and the walleyes are going to be up shallow. They can hide a little bit, but they also get ambushed a lot too. So if they go out over the basins and form big giant schools, they feel a little bit more safe and can typically scoot away from these predator fish a little bit easier because they can see from all the way around them. As we get closer to late ice, I guess is the best time to explain it, March, April, when the oxygen's starting to flow back down from the shorelines, then they typically move up there and they just stay up there. They don't really go back out over the deep anymore, because you got fresh oxygen. You've got everything's starting to come alive again. The weeds are starting to get ready to grow. The bugs are coming alive, and stuff's just it's coming to life in the shallows, and that's typically right where they go. And they're there until the ice goes out. And then a lot of times they'll start staging for the spawn just outside into the bays or shallow on the edge of the shallow weeds, and start looking for their places to make their beds and spawn. So really it's I always start early in the mornings and just before dark, go fish your shallows, and don't be afraid to go a foot or two. If you're a lot of times on some of these lakes out here in Wapaka, Washera County, we'll be drilling holes in sometimes 2-3 feet of water, and if there's a foot and a half of ice, you only have a foot and a half of water underneath the ice, and those bluegills are right there. They're just coming up and feeding. You got to be quiet, and a lot of times when we fish those types of waters and fish that type of area, we're using our long rods, staying away from the hole, trying not to create a shadow, anywhere near that hole, and just making it as dark and as natural as possible. You'd be surprised on what a locator, a guy, an auger, all this stuff sitting on top of the ice, what it looks like from below when you're looking up. It looks like you're being invaded by aliens. It's very everything you do, your movements is accentuated a ton from looking from the bottom up, because your hand, right, is this big, but when you've got sunlight or skies protruding down over the top of you and it hits the ice, when you're looking from the water up, your little hand creates a shadow about this big. So you've got all this movement going on, and then you wonder why fish are freaked out, is because they can see everything so much better. If you guys have cameras, do this for me once. Just try it. Take a camera and flip it so it looks up at you, and drop it down at the bottom, and just watch what you see, and then report back once. And you're going to be surprised on just that flasher or whatever, a bucket, anything that sits on top of the ice, how much of a shadow and an ungodly eyesore it is for these fish. The shadows and stuff it makes is crazy, and you'll really refine your techniques when you start fishing shallow water if you have that visual on what you see. And I'll do it this winter. Once we get going here, I'll take my camera and I'll actually drop it down there and point it up there and do some walking around or move a bucket or whatnot, so you guys can see exactly how much little movement that you make affects what the fish are seeing down below. Let's see. Any other questions this week? Guys, we got all season. We'll be doing this every Tuesday. So is a fish better to fish on? Absolutely, Jeff. 100% fishing on cloudy days is definitely the best time. Especially like today. We whacked them today. I mean, it was a lot of fun. Bright sunny days. If you're in dirty water and you can sit still. You might get a little bit more visibility, but a lot of times what I find with that is the fish are going to be more finicky. They're not going to be as aggressive because they see more, right? But we have great days when it's sunny too. But if I had to take a chance or take a pick, the cloudy days definitely outfishes sunny days for shallow water in general. If we're fishing deep water and these fish are down, 15, 20 feet, whatnot, they're not seeing you up there. I'm not worried about them at that point. But when we're fishing 5 feet of water or less, you want cloudy days and you don't want to move around. You want to sit tight and try and be as still as possible. Brian, stay away from the portables. I mean, we fish with 4 or 5 foot long rods, long stillfish rods. We'll typically have holes all over the place drilled. And what I like to do is have holes close enough that I can stand in the middle and fish. If I've got a 5 foot long rod, I can fish, a 10, 20 foot circle all the way around me and just keep hole hopping by standing in one spot. And then if that little area is gone, then I'll move over to another little pocket of holes that I have drilled. When I'm in that shallow water, I try not to move around as much as possible. Waxworms versus butterworms. What's your go-to? I like the waxworms. The butterworms are good in the summertime. They're a little bit more durable, but the thing with the waxworms is I like to squish them out a lot. I don't ever really, fish them alive or anything. I typically hook a waxworm. I'll double hook them, give them a squeeze, get the, all the stringy and the juicy stuff out of them and use it that way. Very seldom do I ever just put a whole waxworm on and leave it, sit there. Spikes, on the other hand, those you hook really lightly through the eyeballs and they'll sit there and squirm and be really natural and wiggly when they're down underwater. Waxworms don't do that a whole lot. That's probably one of my biggest pet peeves when I see videos of guys fishing waxworm where they thread a whole waxworm, on a hook and it's solid and the thing goes up and down like a yo-yo and the fish come up to it and just kind of look at it. It's like, yeah, there's nothing natural about that, and swim away. Obviously, when the fish are hungry, they'll eat a hot dog or anything you throw at them. But the days it's finicky and you're watching these guys jig with teardrop style baits and a waxworm threaded on a hook, and they just come up and sniff it, look at it, and swim away. I try and keep my baits horizontal in the water. Always pull your knot up after every fish you catch. Pull your knot back so your jig sits horizontal. And, whether it's plastics or waxworms or spikes, make sure that bait is laying horizontal water and swimming, naturally like this. We don't have seahorses around here that I know of that swim through the water like this. There's not too many bugs or anything that go up and down like a seahorse. Most of everything that I see swimming, swims through the water, at a horizontal plane. So again, trying to be as natural as possible. What other questions we have, gentlemen and women? Going back, Travis, how are the sizes? Run big, small, tight, loose? The sizes on the boots are pretty true. I wear a size 9.5 shoe, and I've got they're whole sizes, so they're going to have 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever. Always just go up at least a half size or a full size in your boot. That way there you've got room for socks and air. You want that air in your boot because air is insulation. Air allows you to breathe and doesn't make your feet sweat. So that's, let's see, what do we got? I think these are size 10, right? Yep. So these are size 10, 10 US. Let's see, and I am going to message them and see about the code for that. If anybody's looking for the Norfin boots, you can use. Let's see, the discount code will be Mr. Bluegill, MRBLUEGIL. So that will get you, I believe, 10% off the Norfin site. Approximate cost of the boots. I think they had them for like $179 at the show, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe, I think the normal retail price is like $200, somewhere around there. And they were running a pretty good show special. So, and again, you got the 2 liners as well. So I will get some answers for you on the new boots and let you guys know. And if there's nothing else, I am going to sign off for tonight, and we will see you guys on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then we'll be back again next Tuesday. And hopefully we'll have some better ice conditions to report, or be done shoveling out after a big snowstorm. Hopefully not. So again, please guys, share this live stream. Even though it doesn't matter if it's live or not, this is going to get viewed a bunch of times from now through the week, and and then some, because these all they stay on for forever. They go right to YouTube, and are there. You can go back and watch all the shows. They're all live or all on there from past shows. So, Jeff, I will be speaking. I believe I start off Friday. Let's see. We'll go to the speakers. 1:45. We'll be talking about how to tackle Lady Bagel. 1:45 to 2:30, and then Nate Winters is at 3 to 4, and Tom Boley will be there from 5 to 6. And let's see. Saturday, we got Sarah starts off at 9:45. Greg's doing 11:15. Boley's from 1 to 2. Adam Walton will be there from 2:30. Pat Calmerton from 3:30 on. Nate Winters at 5. Sunday, kind of the same guys. And then if there's any fill-ins or whatnot, I'll be doing some just some Q&A sessions. Not so much necessarily seminars, just kind of talking whatever you guys want to talk about, ask questions. So and I'll be available in the booth and at Critters booth, Eskimo booth all weekend long, and helping the guys at Vulture and Bite Me. And the nice thing about being a small venue is it's going to be pretty personable. So if you guys want to come and chat, feel free, come and chat, and we'll answer anything we possibly can. I'll have a bunch of gear set up there, and kind of show you my combos and setups and all that kind of stuff, and different baits and that too. So looking forward to seeing everybody there. And again, thanks a lot for tuning in tonight, and we'll see you guys next week and see you this weekend. Have a good night, everybody.